Hi there. In a world where nothing is certain, that means anything is possible, right? If you want to fulfill your dreams and desires, you are in the right place. You absolutely can have a life of happiness. Everyone deserves an abundance of love, laughter, success, health, and wealth. I'm Tara Chadzakis, and you're listening to the Happy, Inspired, Motivated podcast. The show that brings you meditation, mindset, and motivation. So start by giving yourself permission to be awesome. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to Happy, Inspired, Motivated. Today, I have an interview with Renie Cavallari, and Renie was such a great person to speak to. She is a real dynamo, and I just loved the energy that she had when we were having a chat. She's an award-winning organizational anthropologist and also a member of the prestigious National Speakers Association. She has 4 companies, and the one that we were really getting into was one called Aspire, and it's a leadership development, training, and strategic growth firm. So she is all about awakening human potential and helping people step into powerful leadership role. Now, Renie has been working for well over 25 years, and she's worked with thousands of leaders and entrepreneurs around the world to help them really get their companies to a better level so they can be more practical and action orientated. She also works with a technique which is actually very similar to the way I work. So, for example, when I'm working with clients, we have awareness, healing, and action. And funnily enough, Renie has something very similar, and hers was own it, shift it, ditch it. So really, really similar in those techniques that we use to help people shift their limiting beliefs and get further forward ahead in their business. Now, Renie has also just released a new book called Head Trash, The Leading Killer of Human Potential. And it's already an Amazon bestseller. And she's also won Best New Business Book from Hollywood Book Festival Awards. So Renie was really interesting to talk to, and we had so much in common. It was wonderful to connect with her on my podcast. So let me introduce Renie to you. I'm sure you're going to love her. I'll put all her links in the show notes so that you can get in touch with her or have a look at the book if you're interested in finding how to dump that head trash. Hi, Renie, and welcome to Happy, Inspired, Motivated. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic today. It's beautiful here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I got up early and I did all my things, my yoga, my meditation. I got myself in a great state.
Also, what time is it there? It's not too late, is it? It's about 10?
It is 9:08 in the morning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's 4:00 here, so it's a little bit of difference there. Yes. I did my meditation this morning and I exercised as well. So we're on the same page.
Yes. Now, I haven't gotten my exercise in yet today, but it'll come later on in the day.
Good for you. What exercise will you do? Do you know?
Oh, yeah. So, sorry, I either will hike or I'll go for a really fast-paced walk. I'm not a runner. I don't particularly like going to the gym.
Yeah.
It just doesn't do it for me. But outdoors, I love. And this is such a fabulous place to be outdoors.
Yeah, I do exercise at home, but I always take the dog out for a walk, and we go to the park, or we have a cycle path that's quite close, and that's really nice because she just loves to run around, bless her. So and play with the other dogs, of course, because they're very social animals, aren't they?
They're the best. Yeah, so we live right on a golf course with a canal, and so I can ride my bike down the canal. There's just so much here, and it's so easy to do without getting in a car.
Perfect. That's just what you want, isn't it? It's nice.
Yes. Yeah. Convenient is best, especially for busy moms.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want anything that's going to have to like a 30-minute drive to get somewhere before you even get started. That just cuts into your whole day, doesn't it?
Yes. It's not possible in my day.
No. So tell me about your day. So I have to ask what an organizational anthropologist is.
Yes. So, well, I started a firm 27 years ago called Powered by Aspire. And Aspire has been working with clients all over the world for 27 years now, which is crazy because I have attention deficit. So to do anything for 27 years is crazy. But we help organizations with their leadership alignment. So we work with leaders, we deal with strategic issues and helping them grow. And that requires an understanding of how an organization works and its culture and how it really comes together or how it's framed. And so our teams work in those environments.
So you work, it's more about the people, obviously, than the strategy.
Yes. Well, and it's so interesting that you say that, Tara, because I grew up in corporate America before I started Aspire as a strategist. And I thought everything was about strategy. And then in my journey, I ended up heading up a hospitality organization, and I got into operations. And I came to understand very humbly that strategy was a lot easier than execution of strategy. And so that's really our niche, is to help bring brands to life, to help organizations really live to their potential. And so it's about taking the strategy and actually pulling it through the organization.
Yeah, because they all have to be on the same page, don't they? There's no just one missing link, and it just stops, doesn't it? It's like when you have those dominoes that go around in patterns. If one domino is not in the right place, then it's just going to stop the whole of the business, isn't it?
It's exactly correct. It's about alignment, and it's the same at home. Alignment is such a critical part of our happiness. When we feel aligned with people, we feel connected, we're able to communicate effectively, we have compassion for one another. And so in the craziness of life, the more alignment we have, it's why some people you're really close friends with someone. It's because there's a sense of connection and that alignment between you. And that's what we try and help create and sustain in organizations.
Do you think that people within organizations have to have formed friendships for them to work well together?
Actually, I think that it's not really about friendships. It is about relationships. Okay. And so, we always explore and we say, there's 6 foundations to an effective alignment, to create an alignment. And the first one is connection. And when connection is different than chemistry. So chemistry is that natural thing that happens. But as leaders, we don't have the luxury to just lead the people we have chemistry with. We have to intentionally create connection, because that's how we create rapport, and rapport creates trust. And so when that rapport starts to happen, it's easier to communicate. It's kind of like you and I, before we, started recording, we realized, wow, we have a lot in common. And it was that kind of that moments of rapport that allowed us to connect, to be able to go, okay, let's get into this now. And so I think we all can create connection. We all don't necessarily create connection. And your best leaders, if you think about the leaders that really, really had organizations, they took them from a difficult time to something really aspirational. They were able to do it through the emotional connection of people and what that opened up.
Yeah. I mean, if the leader doesn't have the respect or the communication channels up, and then people aren't going to do what they can to assist or to help push the company forward. So it's a really important role to have, not just be the leader and have the strategy. You've got to have the personality for it as well, don't you?
Yeah, you have to be able to engage people. And that's about that connection again. And once you do, once we have a little bit of rapport with people, we can communicate more effectively. We can engage them to participate with us. But when we don't have that, it becomes very siloed. And organizations, people don't work well as silos. This is what happened with when we all became, we were working from home and we were really clumsy about it. We couldn't find our rhythm.
Yeah.
And that really, we needed time to then realize, oh, well, I'm missing the connection part. How do I create that for myself if I'm working from home, or if I'm back in an office? What are those dynamics that help me be really powerful as a contributor to an organization, and most importantly to my life?
How did you work in COVID? Did you have to implement different strategies? Was there a call for that kind of, because people were working from home and they were separated? So I'm presuming you had to sort of change the way that you interacted with the businesses that you worked with.
Yes, everything changed. Everything changed for, I don't know many businesses that didn't change since, going into January of 2020. And if you didn't change, you probably aren't around to talk about the business. And so, we certainly, now we do a lot more work via Zoom, which allows us to not travel as much, which quite honestly has been healthy for our team members, because they are at home. It's the stress of COVID, the stress of travel in general, airplanes, masks, etc. So when you're able to really decrease emotional stress for people, and that is what we focused on, over that first in 2020, we donated a tremendous amount of time, over 500 hours of executive coaching. We work with a lot of, chief of this or that people and senior level people, and they didn't have a place to really explore their own head trash and what was going on for them, because they may have had to lay off 7,500 people. I had to lay off people. It was terrible. Wow. It was the first time in 25. It was my 25th anniversary. COVID was my 25th anniversary. And it was the first time we ever laid off anyone. And it hurt me. Yeah. And I had to work through my own head trash. And at the same time, because of Zoom and because of the reality of the world as an organization and personally, we were able to commit to people a lot more time to help them navigate in a more effective way as leaders.
Yeah, definitely. And Zoom has just been such a godsend, hasn't it? I mean, I know Zoom was around before, but people just didn't use it to the extent, obviously, that we've had to do. But isn't it just amazing?
Yeah, it is amazing. We used Zoom, but we didn't use Zoom to the extent. You're absolutely right.
No.
The thing about COVID, and I think just where the world is right now, is it's required us to open our minds to other possibilities. And even if you don't particularly care for those possibilities, the world now is just in this kind of storminess, and we're moving out of it. And it's like any kind of change. We move into a storm and we have to move out of it, or we get stuck in it. And as we move out of it, things look a little bit different. We might appreciate, I always know after a good rainstorm, or, we have these sandstorms sometimes in the summer here, and they're terrible. Oh. And after they go away, it's like the sky is bluer than it was, and the sun is shinier, and we just have a different perspective and gratitude. And this is the change that we have been going through, and how can it inspire us to be better and do things differently? And it's been healthy in so many ways in such an unhealthy situation.
It has, and a lot of people have had the time to reflect on what they're doing and decide whether it's for them or not, or what changes they want to make to have more joy and happiness in their life. And like you say, gratitude. People are more grateful. I know when it first hit and we weren't allowed to go out and meet people, you didn't realize how much you missed your friends, or just going for a coffee, just the little things that now you don't take for granted anymore. You appreciate those things so much more. So there's much more gratitude, I think, in the world for the little things rather than just aiming for the big ones.
Yeah, I think that for me, certainly, when there's turbulence in my world, my life, I lean into gratitude. That helps me get grounded back to, that the reality of attraction, right?
Yeah.
That when you put gratitude out, or when you put kindness out, what you're putting out is coming back. And I don't, I'm more of a spiritual person, and I look at those realities. I don't quite understand the logic behind them. And yet I know with absolute certainty that they're true for me. And so when I'm in a tricky time, and my brain, those little people, those nasty voices in my brain that are undermining me, that's what we call head trash. They're undermining me, and they're sucking my energy, etc. I really have to look at, like, well, what can I control? And my mindset I can control, because I feel the way I think. And F comes before T. I feel the way I think. And so when I'm feeling that sense of overwhelmed, or the fact, like, there was so much in 2020, it was just chaotic all the time. That's where we felt exhausted, because we were running in fear. We were running forward, but we didn't
know what we were running from, really, because there was just not enough knowledge about anything, or how long it was going to take, or what really the consequences were. It was just pure blind fear of everything, wasn't it?
It was. And nothing, human beings, we all hate not having, some sense of control. I always laugh, because people will say, when I'm working with them, they'll say, oh, such and such is a control freak. And I say, everyone is a control freak. It's just what we want to control. You may have a desire to control one thing, and I look at it and go, God, she's such a control freak. But I have my own things that I am controlling, right? And so we really have to understand that our power is in how we think. And we've been blessed to work with tens of thousands of leaders around the globe. And our findings are that there's really three things that make a person perform at their highest potential. And the first is mindset. And so hence why I wrote the book, Head Trash. It was really a culmination of 20 plus years of looking at what was holding human beings back.
Yeah.
And the second, we call this the competency model. The first thing to become highly competent is mindset. The second is skill set. And the third is process set. So we all focus in business a lot of times on the skills and the processes for people, but we don't give a lot to, the fact that if our head isn't in the game, we can't perform at the same level. And I don't know if you ever watch Amazon Prime.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay, so there's a show called Billions on there.
I've just seen it advertised. I don't know if it's new in the UK, but I've just seen the advert for it recently.
Yes, well, it is fantastic. And actually, I can't remember the star of the show. He's actually a Brit. And anyway, but Billions is in this. It all takes place on Wall Street, and they're investment banking, and it's the nastiness of that whole environment, right? But they actually have a psychologist on staff who is a part of their executive team. And it speaks to the issue of that. How do you help people keep their head in the right place to be high performers? And this is really, when we go back to, an organizational anthropologist, that's it. It's like, how do you help an organization form so that they move from strength? And that formation is about the individuals. And a lot of times we think everything's about the team, but the team is a derivative of individuals.
Of course it is,
and we really have to focus on the individual and really helping them either help their spirit rise, or help them, really be able to focus and have clarity. And when we have a lot of head trash, the first thing we lose is clarity, because the emotional stress is high. So we can't see clear. And then we do foolish things.
Yeah. I mean, when I work with my clients, it's the same thing. It's mindset. It's limiting beliefs and getting through those kind of things. Because like you say, you can have the skill set and the process set, but without the mindset, nothing's going to fit into place. Something's always going to get in the way. Something's going to stop, and you're not going to be able to progress. Even if you do well in business, something's going to stop you from getting to the next level, because your mindset has to constantly evolve and grow to accommodate different levels in business, doesn't it?
It sure does, because things are constantly changing. That is the only thing we can count on, is that, things are changing, and we have to be able to have agility to see them. And what we came to understand in Head Trash, and what I write about in the book, is that we have an emotional brain. And, we have a physical brain, of course, that is running our body, but we have an emotional brain that's running our life.
Yep, I agree completely.
There's two sides to that. And there's the connected side and the disconnected side. And the connected side is where, our creativity is, obviously our positive thoughts, where solutions to problems live, where our ability to collaborate with people and build rapport and connection. All of that is on the connected side of your emotional brain. And by the way, that's where joy is. That's where happiness is. And so the goal of life is to be on the the good stuff. Yeah. The goal of life is to be on the connected side of your emotional brain. The disconnected side is where you have those nasty head trash voices, where you're stuck in the problem. Maybe, I know for myself, sometimes when I get stuck, like I can't fall asleep, it's like the tape.
Yeah.
Or, I look at something and I see it, 5 times bigger than it truly is. I exaggerate it, or I worry, my fear, my anxiety, all is on that disconnected side. And this is what we were really able to identify after working with so many people all these years, is how do you teach people, how do you reprogram and learn to shift yourself? So to shift from the disconnected side into the connected side of your emotional brain. And that's the trick.
Perfect. And that's what I know you've just released your book, and that's what the main premise of your book is. It is called Head Trash. That's right, isn't it?
Head Trash, the leading killer of human potential. And really, it is years and years of research, of working with thousands of people to understand what is it. And 2020 ended up being a really interesting year, because as we were working with all these leaders that had always been high performers, but not everyone stayed a high performer during that time. And it really came down to how they navigated their own head trash versus their ability to connect with people and to really cleanly communicate. Like, there are a lot of organizations where they kept furloughing people, and then they'd say, well, we're going to furlough you for 2 months. We're going to furlough you for another month. We're going to furlough you. And then, 7 months later, 8 months later, they say, okay, now we're going to let you go. That lack of clean communication is what created this anger with employers, and this sense of like exhaustion of like, when am I going to get my life back? And so what's happened is people have taken their lives back. But being able to work with people to help them shift, as you do as a coach, you're getting them to that connected side. And that's where their aspirations really come alive.
Yeah, people, like you say, it's not about controlling your life, but you have to not be held on the end of a string with a carrot on the end, and it's moving away every single time. You're getting closer, and it's like, well, just one more, just a little bit further, and then, oh, actually, the carrot's not yours anymore anyway. That's that's really hard on someone, especially mixed with all the things that were going on. I mean, last year, I don't know, 2021, even though we kind of went through it again, we knew what to expect. So we weren't we weren't startled, we weren't shocked. It was just like, okay, it's this again. So we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do that. And we adapted so quickly. We were just like, oh, this is the same thing again. We don't have to worry about that. It's all right.
So there's 3 elements to burnout. And what happened in 2021 and why we're seeing this, the great resignation and these things, is that in 2020, we were running with a lot of power, but it was from the disconnected side. We were in fear.
Yeah.
And so as we became aware in 2021, like, okay, this is part of our life in some way, we were exhausted as we went into this next phase, because we've been pushing and pushing and pushing. And we kept asking ourselves questions. When is it going to stop? Why is this happening? Who did this to us?
Yes.
And then all these questions that kept us stuck in that disconnected side. And burnout lives in the disconnected side of your emotional brain, because that's where that emotional exhaustion percolates up and creates the sense of burnout. And then you start questioning, I don't really know if I love my job anymore. I don't really know if what am I contributing? Why am I, we get in, if we self-reflect on the disconnected side of our emotional brain, we miss out on the gratitude.
Yeah.
So we want to be self-reflective in life as human beings. We want to own it. We want to be self-reflective, but we need to be in the connected side of the brain when we do that. Otherwise, that burnout keeps running the tape of I'm too exhausted, I'm this, I'm that. And if we can decrease that emotional stress and gain clarity. So for those who are listening in, imagine an arrow going down, and it's your emotional stress. When your emotional stress goes down, there's an arrow going across that's clarity. That's when you gain clarity. And that allows for an arrow going up, productive action. So when you get that clarity, you're now on the connected side of your emotional brain. But a lot of times we make decisions and we react, and our ego, by the way, is on the disconnected side.
Oh, yes.
Our confidence, the strength of ourselves, our power is on the connected side. And so when we learn how to shift, and this is what we explored in the book, that we actually had we had over 1,000 people do a survey and identify what are the things that you do for yourself, either in the moment or on a daily basis as a habit, that allow you to decrease your emotional stress and start your day, or find a way in your day to be on the connected side of your emotional brain. And ironically, there was 29 that came up. It was kind of an interesting,
wow.
There were 29 different ways of based on a little over 1,000 people. It just cut at 29. And because I work with statistics, we didn't find a 30th. It was like, the cut is the cut. But, and they were really interesting. Some people, it's as easy as turning on music.
That does elevate your energetic vibration. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just that simple. And so they elevated that music. Other people, it was, there was quite a few people that spoke about meditation. And the meditation, I remember years ago when someone said to me, because I got a lot of energy, boy, meditation would really be good for you. And I'm like, woo, it wasn't like my thing yet.
Yeah.
Now it's my thing. I gotta have it. But I ended up getting into guided meditation, and that allowed me to decrease my emotional stress. So it doesn't matter how you do it. It's about finding the things that decrease that emotional stress so that then you gain clarity. The beauty of clarity is, for humans, we have control again.
Yes, when we have a clear path, we find our purpose and our way to go forwards. That's, it does make you more productive when you sort of tap into that side.
And then it starts to, it's synergy. It gets bigger and bigger, because you take productive action, you get a great result, you get a little more, you get a little more, you get a little more.
And that helps with your emotional energy as well.
Absolutely.
So your latest book is out on Amazon, and it's already a bestseller, I believe.
Yes, it is.
And it also won a prestigious Hollywood Book Festival award. That's not bad for a book that's just come out.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I'm very honored about that. We've had lots of really wonderful endorsements, and I'm just happy that it's helping people. Honestly, that's after my work is really in the business sector, but this book is really not about. It's certainly about business, but more importantly for me, it's about my own journey with finding the connected side of my brain, and then also how we go about doing that for ourselves, and the 3 steps to do it that allow us to go and get there quickly.
So is it more strategy, or is it more spiritual, or is it somewhere in the middle?
It's actually very tactical. It's
Okay.
understanding what's going on in your brain, and then how to shift from the disconnected side to the connected side. We've identified through working with all these people that there's 3 steps. You own it, you shift it, you dump it. And we share what we call shift questions on how to change it basically changes your perspective.
Yeah.
So like as an example of, let's say, my husband and I are in a thing, right? And we're like going back and forth on something. And we're both in the disconnected side of our emotional brain.
Yeah.
And it's going. And so someone has to get to the connected side for the conversation to get productive at all. Like otherwise we're just in the, I can't hear you, you can't hear me, but I'm sure I'm right. So I don't have to hear you.
Sounds about right. Definitely. It sounds like a relationship argument.
It works for me, but it doesn't work for us, evidently. So anyway, when I asked myself, like the other night, he had done something and I wasn't really liking it. It was like something in the kitchen and how he had wiped something off, and I was watching it and I'm worried about it. And I, of course, couldn't hold myself back. And I said something like, what are you thinking? I hate to say it, but I was not my best self. Okay. I'm sure it doesn't happen to anybody else. But anyway, and I remember like he got really like, in hindsight, it probably hurt his feelings and he felt insulted, but really he just walked off and he's like, really, and he, at that moment, I asked myself this question. It was, who do I want to be right now? And that's a great shift question because I definitely didn't want to be who I was about, like where I was heading.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one needs to hear my 3-step process over how to clean, a counter. But if I hadn't asked myself that question, I wouldn't have shifted, because otherwise I would have justified, hey, am I the only person who can clean these counters? I'd get into that other conversation and it would keep me stuck in the disconnected side of my emotional brain. But there's a lot of great shift questions. Like, something is going on, let's say with work, and, you ask yourself, okay, what's the first thing I can do to make progress here?
Yeah.
Versus, why is this such a mess?
Yeah.
Right? When I say, why is it such a mess? I log myself, I put myself deeper into the disconnected side of my emotional brain versus, what can I do to make progress here? And so we can train our brain. It's just like we train our muscles to work. Well, we can train our brain to start to have this habit of shift. And so first you have to own it, then you shift it. And at that point you can take productive action, which means you can dump it.
That's just like, I do this with my clients, something very similar. And I do it all the time in my life. It's like, if you get up in the morning and just one thing's gone wrong, and it spirals out of control, and everything else that day just totally sucks. Unless you stop yourself. If I'm driving somewhere and I'm like, okay, this cannot continue, Tara, because if you do, the whole day is going to be terrible. So I have to shift myself emotionally and mentally onto something completely different, and then let go what's happened. It could be, spilling the coffee, or not being able, or putting a hole in your tights, or whatever it is. It can be just something like that can cause the whole day to just be like terrible unless you shift it.
Right. So this is why coaches are so important in our lives, therapists, psychologists, whatever works for an individual.
Yeah.
It's because it's a place where we can learn, someone can shift us. So sometimes we get so stuck. So I call on my coach. If I am stuck on something, I reach out and say, okay, help me work through this. But first you have to be able to own it. And a lot of times what we do is we deny it, we blame and shame others. So we justify it of why we're mad. But being mad or being disappointed, angry, upset, whatever it is that's going on, if we just justify it, we get stuck in it more, and it doesn't serve our soul. It doesn't serve me.
No, it's perspective, isn't it? I mean, the person, if you're blaming somebody else, what they did it was perfectly right for their decision, for them. Do you know what I mean? Right. They didn't do it to offend you.
Exactly. And so going back to that situation with my husband, a couple of weeks ago, where I stopped myself. Who do I want to be right now? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be this person. And I looked over and I just went over and I hugged him and I just said, I am so sorry. And I really appreciate that you helped me with kitchen. And I'm embarrassed that I even said anything.
Yeah, he wasn't wiping the worktops to upset you.
But the point was that when I could shift quickly, I could clean it up quickly. I could, no pun intended there, but I could clean my own mistake up because I didn't handle it properly. Now, does it mean that I don't talk to him about, hey, it'd be really helpful when you do the dishes to actually clean, the counter as well? Yeah, I can have that conversation, but not in the moment of which I was going to do it. And, you speak about law of attraction. So when I spewed that out, guess what I get? Spewed right back.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you get into that bad rhythm of, whether it gets nasty or disconnected or, just feeling lousy. And like life at this point, if we've learned anything through COVID is that it's short and relationships are of value.
Of course they are. Yeah. And you've got to be happy. If you're not happy, change something, change your mindset. If that's what it takes, just change your mindset at least if you can't change your circumstances.
Yeah. This is an interesting thing because with the great resignation, what we're seeing is people are leaving, but they're not, they haven't really closed the chapter on why they left. So they left, but are they really happy in the next place where they are? It's new and shiny, and that's great for 6 months. But what happens after 12 months if you haven't worked through your own crap, your own stuff, that negative tape?
You're just taking it with you.
Right. So you're going back to the law of attraction is that it will repeat. And Definitely. So this is why it's so important for us to really understand we have to take care of our emotional brain and we have to work hard at shift questions. And actually I have a ton of them for free there. You don't have to, it's the website is dumpheadtrash.com. And you can go in and you just click on it and you can get shift questions. There's a bunch of resources there. Actually, your podcast will eventually be there soon.
Great. I'm going to put it in. I'm going to put that link in the show notes anyway. And I've also got like your Instagram as well and Facebook, which can go in there, which would be really cool. And maybe a link to the book would be great too. Or can you buy the book? You can buy the book from the website, can't you? Actually,
you can buy the book from the website. You can also go to Amazon, Amazon.com, and it's Head Trash: The Leading Killer of Human Potential. And there's also an audiobook, and there's a joy journal.
Wow. Okay. So, and they're all together. I'm presuming. Do you use the joy journal with the Head Trash book?
You can, and you can buy it separately. It's totally up to you. It really is about how do you start. So I journal, but I journal with a guided approach. It gives me a process that helps me, because just writing for me, I'm a writer and I can't come to a conclusion. Like I want to journal so that it can put me in the connected side of my emotional brain. And that's what it takes less than 5 minutes. And its entire approach is to ask a couple of questions that get you to the connected side of your emotional brain. So you start your day in the connected side.
That sounds perfect. That sounds a lot of people are going to need that. So the shift questions and the joy journal. Awesome. Excellent. Well, we'll definitely put links to those in there as well. So thank you so much for spending time with me today. I can't thank you enough, even though you're in Arizona, which is a lot warmer than where I am. So I'm a little bit jealous, but I'll get over myself, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, no, it was my pleasure. And I can't wait to go explore where you live. And, as I shared with you, I have a wanderlust problem. I've been to 64 countries in the last 2 years. I haven't been to any countries, and I I feel
now
like
it's time.
Oh my gosh, we're heading to Europe, for sure this summer. But yes, I am so excited to get back into the world.
Yeah. We went to Greece last year. We managed to sort of slip it in between. We're open. No, we're not. We sort of went in the middle of that, and it was so great to be in another country. We're like, oh my God, I just want to touch everything and look at everybody and just have foreign voices around you. And it was just so nice. And
it's such a beautiful country.
And the sunshine. Yeah, it is. But it was just good
Beautiful
to get out
people.
of our own country for a change. So when you come here, we'll definitely go for a coffee.
There you go. Likewise. Or come to Phoenix.
Yes. Yeah, when I'm there, I'll knock on the door. Don't you worry.
Okay, great.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Any lasting words of wisdom you'd like to give to my audience as we go?
Well, I just would say, may you have as much joy in your life as you allow. That's the goal of life. I call that success, is how much joy do I feel equals success.
Perfect. Love that. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Happy, Inspired, Motivated podcast. I'll be back next week bringing more meditation, mindset, and motivation for your happy and successful life. To find out more about our community, go to tarachatzakis.com/happy, inspired, motivated.